Thank you, Professor Snyder, and good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Hughes, and as Associate Head of ECE, I have the pleasure of introducing our student speaker, Patrick A. Carroll. Patrick is graduating summa cum laude this morning with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering. During his undergraduate studies, Patrick founded the Open Design Lab, a laboratory where electronics equipment and parts that is open 24 hours a day, where ECE students can design, build, and test their ideas. He has also worked as a teaching assistant in our introductory circuits course. Last year, Patrick led a multidisciplinary team of NC State students to the Walt Disney Imaginations competition in Southern California. The team's project was a proposed new theme park ride inspired by the 1940 Disney movie Fantasia. This ride would allow guests to conduct a new musical score and control various magical effects of the ride using their hands. Patrick developed the gesture recognition software and the hardware for a prototype and interactive demo. His team won second place in the nation in this prestigious competition. After graduation, Patrick plans to move to California to accept a position with Apple Incorporated. And in his spare time, Patrick also plans to finish up his second degree in our department, a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, through our distance education program. It's my pleasure to introduce our student speaker, Patrick A. Carroll.
Thank you, Dr. Hughes, for that introduction. Thank you, family, friends, faculty, and fellow graduates for attending today. It's so great to see you guys. First, before I begin, I'd like to thank my family and thank my friends for coming today. You guys are really, really important and a key support network for me during these 4 years, and I really appreciate it. I'd also like to point out that Bart Green, is he here today? He's not? No, I don't think so. But Bart is our director of the Industrial Relations and our Senior Design Center. And he grew that program over 13 years at NC State on the faculty, and he'll be retiring this semester. So I'd like to thank Bart for his support of this department. I'd also like to thank Dr. Snyder so much for his contributions. He'll be retiring this semester too. And Elena Page, thank you so much for your support in my project. But you know, I think that we've all shared this experience of engineering school. And by now we've had mostly the same experiences along the way, and I'd like to point some of those out. All of us have experienced the frustration of dealing with three-phase power circuit problems. All of us have experienced the frustration of MATLAB telling us that our vector lengths must match before we try to plot something. That's incredibly frustrating. Most of us have had at least one class in Harrelson Hall, and it was probably a math course. And if so, you'll know how difficult it is to get up the stairs in the morning. And if you had a class on the third floor, be sure to pack a lunch, because you'll need it to make base camp on the second floor and try a summit attempt in the morning. And if the stairs, of course, are not appealing for you, there's always this spiral ramp in the center of the building. And I think it's about 3 revolutions per floor. And I think that they were planning on making the building 12 stories high. Yeah, all of us have been on the Route 3 engineering bus. When we find that we're tired of listening to the passionate arguments about whether C or Java is a better computing language that inevitably occur on Route 3, we choose to wait for the Route 8 bus which has the added bonus of going by textiles. Guys, we've all seen the truly dreadful combinations of clothing that engineering students seem to put together in the morning. Here's a pro tip. If you ever find yourself thinking, this fedora will match my trench coat, stop. Just stop there and rethink your wardrobe for work. And I think all of the undergraduates have gone through this. We've all listened to Dr. Alexander in his famous 8 a.m. classes talk about how cats will one day take over the world, and we will have to pay for our transgressions against catkind in a fictitious place called Cat Court, and how he thought Wizard of Oz was a documentary the first time he saw it. And I believe that all of us have heard at least one really, really bad Dr. Ascuti joke. And the pity laughter from his audience that follows. No, Dr. Ascuti, your jokes are really bad. Stick to E&M. But all of these hardships add up to something, and that, of course, is something really big. Today, we're receiving a piece of paper that shows that we are competent engineers. But competence is something that must be continually built over your career. And competence is an essential attribute of the serious engineer in your long careers. One of my heroes and favorite engineers is Gene Kranz. For the Apollo aficionados in the audience, you'll know his name. For those of you who aren't, Gene Kranz is the guy in the mission control room with his flat-top military haircut and vest. If you haven't seen the movie Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks, Gene's famous line is, "Failure is not an option." Gene's official job at NASA was flight director for both the Gemini and Apollo missions that resulted in the successful landing of 2 American citizens on the moon, July 24th, 1969. However, between all of the flashiness and glamour of sending Americans into outer space, Gene was a safety net. And I think this is an understatement. Gene's official job as flight director was simple. He was to take any measures necessary to ensure crew safety and mission success. Gene's dedication to the engineering details of the mission were essential in landing men on the moon. As an engineer, I believe that we have the burden of these details. We're responsible for the project's success or failure. But to be sure, Mission Control had its fair share of failures as well. Perhaps the most notable during Gene's era was the fire that caused the tragic loss of the Apollo 1 crew during a routine pad test on January 27, 1967, which killed all 3 astronauts. An engineering decision to bolt on the door of the capsule prevented an emergency egress from the launch vehicle. These engineering details and choices are things that we live with every day. You see, in the real world, your choices don't result in an A or an F. Your choices quite literally influence the success or failure of something. To be a complacent engineer is a risky business. After this disaster, Gene had a meeting with his controller staff. From his autobiography, "Failure is Not an Option," Gene told the flight controller staff, from this day forward, flight control would be known by 2 words, tough and competent. Gene instructed the controllers to write these words on their blackboards in their offices, tough and competent. I believe these words are critical for a few reasons. First, you'll have a few hard and challenging situations to solve, both technical and personal. Many of you have already had a lot of experience in this area on co-ops or internships. You need to be tough enough to accept criticism, and you need to be tough enough to admit a mistake before it becomes a disaster. Set your arrogance aside, and pride to work in a team is critical to mission success. and getting along with your coworkers and catching your mistakes. Good engineers are competent. You need to be competent in your craft and competent in your role. These two words are essential for the serious engineer. In Gene's words, there is no substitute for total preparation and complete dedication, for space will not tolerate carelessness or indifference. I believe this idea of being both tough and competent will come naturally if you are in a role that you love. If you badge in every morning and think to yourself, wow, I cannot wait to work on this today, you will fulfill both of these basic requirements. You will be possessed by a need to produce quality work. I hope that all of you will find something in your future that makes you this excited. You know, when I started at Apple last year, we got a card in our welcome packet that simply stated, there's work and there's your life's work. The kind of work that has your fingerprints all over it. The kind of work that you'd never sacrifice or that you'd never compromise on, that you'd sacrifice a weekend for. You can do that kind of work here. People don't come here to play it safe. They come here to swim in the deep end. This ethic and drive is something that I hope everyone will bring to the table after their graduation. Be excited about the details. Be tough and competent. This is what I wish for all of you graduates of electrical and computer engineering. Thank you.